The veteran had always lived a quiet life in the community. His modest home, with its carefully trimmed hedges and well-kept lawn, stood out only because of one thing: the American flag that waved proudly on his front porch. To him, it was not decoration. It was memory. It was sacrifice. It was the faces of those who never came home. For years, that flag had flown without issue. Until one morning, a letter appeared taped to his front door. The letter carried the sharp tone only an HOA could deliver. In cold, legalistic words, it declared that the flag violated community aesthetic standards. It ordered him to remove it immediately. If he failed to comply, daily fines would be imposed. At first, the veteran thought it was a mistake, some misunderstanding. He had read HOA rules when he moved in, and he knew what was allowed and what wasn't. Yet here it was: the HOA demanding he take down the one thing he held sacred. Neighbors began to notice. Some whispered that the HOA had gone too far, while others said rules were rules. The veteran stood on his porch that evening, watching the flag ripple in the wind, and felt a storm of emotions: anger, disbelief, and a growing sense of defiance. He knew his rights, but he also knew how ruthless an HOA could be. The fines started the next day: a slip in his mailbox, $50, then another the day after, $100. The HOA was relentless. They sent warning letters, each more threatening than the last. They even hinted at legal action if he didn't comply. To the HOA board, this was just another homeowner who needed to be put in line. But what they didn't realize was that this particular homeowner had worn a uniform, carried a rifle, and sworn an oath to defend the very flag they now demanded he remove. The veteran didn't take down his flag. Instead, he opened his old storage trunk and pulled out a worn folder of documents he had kept for years. Inside was more than just paperwork. It was knowledge of federal law. He read the statutes carefully, the words burning into his mind. The HOA might think their rules were supreme, but he knew the truth. Some laws stood higher than HOA bylaws, and those laws protected him. As the week ended, the veteran stood ready. The HOA thought they were tightening a noose around him, but in reality, they had just stepped into a fight they could not win, and that fight was about to begin. The veteran decided not to respond with angry letters or emotional pleas. Instead, he waited until the next HOA board meeting. The community center buzzed with chatter that evening. Homeowners sat in folding chairs, flipping through agendas, while the board members took their seats at the front table. The HOA president, a sharp woman with a clipped tone and a love for rules, called the meeting to order. When the topic of violations came up, the veteran's name was read aloud. His refusal to remove the flag was described as blatant non-compliance. The board nodded in agreement, their pens scratching as they discussed escalating fines. But then the veteran stood. All eyes turned to him. He held in his hand a copy of the Federal Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005. He explained, calmly but firmly, that under federal law, no homeowner association could prohibit or restrict homeowners from displaying the American flag on their property. He read directly from the statute, word for word, making sure every board member heard it clearly. The room shifted. Neighbors leaned in. Some gasped. Others smiled. The HOA president tried to interject, claiming that aesthetic harmony gave them authority. But the veteran did not waver. He reminded them that federal law outranked HOA rules. Their fines, their threats, their demands, all of it was not only invalid but illegal. The HOA members exchanged uneasy glances. Some scribbled notes, others shuffled papers nervously. But the president was not ready to back down. She insisted the board would review the matter and issue a formal ruling. For the veteran, this was expected. He knew they wouldn't surrender their control so easily. As the meeting adjourned, neighbors whispered in hushed tones. Some approached the veteran, thanking him for standing up. Others warned him that the board was stubborn and ruthless. But the veteran left the meeting calm. He had done what he needed to do, put the law in front of them. Now it was up to the HOA to either respect the law or dig themselves deeper into a hole. And the next letter they sent proved exactly which path they chose. Days later, another envelope appeared in his mailbox. This one was harsher than ever. The HOA doubled the fines and threatened a lien against his property. They dismissed his references to federal law as irrelevant and demanded full compliance. It was clear they were testing him, betting he would fold under pressure, but they underestimated his resolve. The veteran made copies of the HOA's threats and filed a complaint with the state attorney general's office. He also reached out to a local veterans group, who quickly rallied to his side. News traveled fast. Soon, the story spread beyond the neighborhood. A local journalist picked it up. Cameras arrived. Interviews were recorded. The veteran's front lawn became more than just a house with a flag. It became a symbol. Neighbors who had once stayed silent now began questioning the HOA's authority. They attended board meetings in greater numbers, voicing frustration. Some demanded the board back down. The pressure grew. The HOA president, once so confident, now appeared defensive and cornered. But instead of backing down, the board attempted to justify their actions. They claimed the flagpole was structural modification, not approved by the HOA. They argued about uniformity and standards. But the veteran countered every argument with law, precedent, and public support. The community grew divided. Some feared the board's power, while others felt emboldened to resist. What began as one man's fight for his flag had become a movement inside the neighborhood. The veteran knew the board was running out of options. The law was not on their side. The community was turning against them. And now, with media attention and legal authorities watching, the HOA was backed into a corner. All that was left was the inevitable: a public reckoning. The breaking point came at the next monthly meeting. The room was packed. Neighbors filled every chair, with some standing against the back wall. Reporters sat quietly, cameras ready. The HOA board filed in, looking strained and tense. The president's usual sharp tone was gone, replaced with clipped, nervous words. The first item on the agenda was the flag violation. The veteran sat in the front row, silent, watching. The president cleared her throat and read a prepared statement. In it, the board admitted they had overstepped. They acknowledged federal law protected the veteran's right to fly the American flag. And then, in words the veteran never thought he'd hear, the board issued a formal apology, not only to him, but to the entire community. The room erupted. Some applauded. Others shouted their approval. The veteran simply sat still, his gaze fixed on the flag that, through the window, could be seen fluttering gently in the evening breeze. The fines were rescinded, the threats withdrawn. The board, now humiliated, vowed to review its policies to ensure such violations would never happen again. For many neighbors, it was the first time they realized the HOA was not untouchable. For the veteran, it was a reminder of something deeper, that freedom, once fought for, must always be defended. In the days that followed, the neighborhood felt different. The flag remained on his porch, untouchable, a quiet symbol of perseverance. Neighbors who once avoided conflict now walked taller, inspired by his stand. The HOA, though still powerful, had been humbled. The veteran never sought glory, attention, or headlines. All he ever wanted was to fly the flag he had sworn to defend. And in the end, that's exactly what he did. The HOA tried to take it away, but the law, the people, and the truth stood stronger. And in that victory, the flag waved brighter than ever before. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe.